Welcome to Sports Beat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, May 5th. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Today, beat writer Herbie Teope and I talk Chiefs, including the acquisition of defensive end Taco Charlton, the release of punter Dustin Colquitt, and we speculate on the Chiefs' 2020 schedule, which is expected to be announced with all of the NFL slates later this week. After a break, we'll hear from Chief safety Tyrann Mathieu. He met with reporters last Friday, and it's always interesting to hear what the team's 2019 MVP has to say. But first, here's Herbie Teope. Herbie, once again, I'm reminded that even though it is the offseason, we're through the draft, we haven't gotten to what would be scheduled to be, OTAs. There's still a ton of news that happens with the NFL every week. And since the last time we talked, there have been some comings and goings on the Chiefs roster. The most significant acquisition, it seems to me, is defensive end Taco Charlton. Not only is he interesting and significant because of his name, but because of his position, and he's got the fact that he's with his third team in 4 years, a former first-round draft pick. I find him very curious. So why were the Chiefs interested in him, and what's he going to bring to the Chiefs?
Well, if anything, I think Taco Charlton gives them a lot of depth there at the defensive line. And it's kind of weird because he's coming from Miami. And, of course, the Chiefs lost Emmanuel Ogbah to the Dolphins defensive end there who signed a free agent contract with Miami in March. So this is kind of like a swapping out of defensive ends. If you recall, during the pre-draft process, Brett Veach, general manager Brett Veach, kept saying, hey, we need depth on the defensive line. We thought they addressed it with Mike Dana, who also is a Michigan guy. So there's another interesting dynamic. But, the fact that they added Taco Charlton, why not? He's a first-round draft pick, a former first-round draft pick, and you don't become a first-round draft pick in the National Football League unless people think that you are a good quality prospect. Granted, he is on his third team. He's bounced around now between the Dallas Cowboys, who made him a first-round pick in 2017, the 28th overall pick, waived by the Cowboys 2 weeks into the 2019 regular season before being claimed by the Dolphins, shortly thereafter in September. He didn't last there for some reason or another. And my understanding, from reading the reports from our brothers and sisters at the Miami Herald was, he was inactive 3 of the last 4 games, a healthy scratch. So this is kind of interesting. But, at this point, a 1-year contract with Charlton gives them an opportunity to see what they have in him. He bolsters depth behind Frank Clark, also a Michigan alum.
Right. I know. How about that? I just thought that the Chiefs could have gone defensive end earlier in the draft, but waited until the 5th round. And as you said, got Mike Dana. I guess the Chiefs must see something in him, and the idea of a guy being a first round talent has the Chiefs believing that there's potential there. It's just maybe a matter of fit and finding the right spot, finding the right coach, maybe the right position coach, and the right locker room for him.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic point you bring up there as well, finding the right fit, because the Chiefs seem to like former Cowboys defensive players, from linebacker Anthony Hitchens, Damian Wilson, Charvarius Ward. Now they get a chance to rejuvenate another career, hopefully, with Taco Charlton. I think this is a very low-risk move for them because it is only a 1-year deal. So you find out what you have with this guy, see if he fits, see if he can push Alex Okafor, Tano Pasano, Damone Harris, Breeland Speaks. We hardly ever talk about this guy. He was a draft pick, and Tim Ward. And if he can push them and somehow find his way into the rotation, it's a win-win situation for them. If he doesn't work out, once again, a 1-year deal. You're not really losing too much.
Boy, he's an athletic guy, 6'6", 277, athletic. I'm looking forward to seeing him in pads and see what he can do. To be honest with you, I didn't pay as much attention to him, maybe because he was, he spent most of his career in the NFC, and the Chiefs didn't play the Dolphins last season. So he just wasn't on my radar screen. But, for a guy to, again, a former first-round draft pick to be on his third team in 4 years, there had to be some issues. Looking forward to talking to him. You mentioned the position group, right? Frank Clark, Tano Passanio, Okafor coming back off the injury. Breland Speaks, you mentioned, and you hit the nail on the head. Interesting guy. Didn't get to play last year in the new Steve Spagnuolo defense, so we kind of don't know what we have with Speaks. And then the guys who were on the practice squad last year, he'll get every opportunity to succeed. And I think this is true of any player coming to a Super Bowl championship team. They're going to want to fit in, and I think that the locker room culture will help. If there is an attitude issue, or if there's just some reason why it hasn't worked for him in Miami and Dallas, if there are reasons beyond just a wrong fit, if he did have an attitude problem, I don't think you'll see that in Kansas City just because of the strength of the Chiefs locker room. Players like Frank Clark and Chris Jones and Tyrann Mathieu, I think those can help bring a guy around. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And if anything, shortly after the signing, Frank Clark took to Twitter, and pretty much embraced and welcomed him in. And I think if anything also, they briefly crossed paths in Ann Arbor as college teammates. So if anything, he got that working for him as well. And such a strong Michigan tie in that locker room all of a sudden at the defensive line position. So, these guys are certainly going to be looking out for one another. And again, I just think it's a low risk, high reward type move, because we're talking about a former first round draft pick. Because he bounced around teams, I don't think you can really give up on him. He's still young. He's 25. He doesn't turn 26 until I believe during the regular season. So he's still got a lot of his prime years left in him. And it goes back to the point you made earlier. Maybe it's the right fit, the right coaching staff, and the Chiefs certainly are designed to take care of, to embrace those kinds of players that need that extra push.
You and I haven't talked since the Chiefs released Dustin Colquitt. Were you surprised by that move?
I think if anything, the Chiefs signaled what direction they were going. When you sign a punter, Tyler Newsome, during free agency, and then you sign an undrafted guy, and all of a sudden give yourself 3 punters, on the roster.
Yeah,
they kind of signaled that the move was coming. And if anything, it's the unfortunate side of the business. He was counting way too much against the salary cap. So this was a salary cap move, and you start seeing this. Especially with veteran players as their careers progress, and you're in May getting ready to hit June and you need cap space. These are the guys that fall into that business side of football. And it's a very unfortunate, because as you and I both know from being around the team for years, Colquitt meant so much to this community. He was a stand-up guy, such a classy guy. Every time he was in the locker room, which is a lot, he certainly was very gracious with his time if you had questions. And he was just a guy who embodied what Kansas City is all about, in my opinion. Friendly, laid back, willing to help out others. But unfortunately, again, this goes back to the business side of football, and it saved the Chiefs. They were able to gain some much-needed salary cap space.
Right. 15 years with the Chiefs, and that is that matches Gerald Wilson, the former punter, the most seasons with the Chiefs. Wilson, of course, was the punter for the Chiefs during their first Super Bowl runs in the 60s. And I think I did some computation and found that only George Brett and Frank White have been professional athletes for a Kansas City sports team longer than Dustin Colquitt in terms of number of years. Of course, Colquitt with more games played or appeared in than any member of the Chiefs. So, and I, easily an easy call for the Chiefs Hall of Fame. That'll happen. Will he get another job somewhere in the NFL? 15 years is he's been around a long time.
But he's also still very effective. And here's the crazy thing. And I'm just like running scenarios through my head. And I go to the Northeast. There's a head coach up there that loves left-footed kickers. And,
yes, he does.
And I know Chiefs fans would roll over, eyes would just go crazy. And if somehow the Patriots said, you know what, we always liked Dustin Colquitt. He's kicked in Kansas City. That means he can kick in outdoor weather. Let's bring him in. And look, That's just me 100% speculating. and because I like looking around and see what makes sense. And we know Bill Belichick loves left-footed kickers, and that's a scenario that makes sense to me if the Patriots were to look at him.
Yeah, look, and Dustin Colquitt, the master of the inside the 20 punt, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention. I mean, he got involved with the charitable organization Team Smile, which serves underprivileged kids with who need dental work, and was a champion for that cause. Was in on the ground floor of that 15 years ago. So a great cause, a great citizen of Kansas City, a great Kansas City Chief. He'll be missed. I'm glad he got to go out with a Super Bowl ring. Like his dad had one, his brother got one in Denver, and now Dustin Colquitt with a Super Bowl ring. Okay, let's.
All of a sudden, now we have an interesting battle. A position battle that we haven't talked about in years.
Exactly.
Battle now. I think the Chiefs have an intriguing situation here. You bring in Tyler Newsome, who kicked at Notre Dame, but the guy that they really like, and from my understanding, is Tommy Townsend, the undrafted free agent out of Florida, drew a lot of interest at the end of the draft. But again, it comes down to you have an opportunity to sign with a Super Bowl champion, go for it. And so they're really high on Tommy Townsend. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does if OTA's training camp actually is able to go on.
And another thought that occurred to me is Dustin Colquitt was the holder, is the holder for field goals and extra points, and was terrific for most of his career. I remember there was the flub at Tennessee earlier this year, but for the most part, just was fantastic at that job. And Harrison Butker is going to have to break in a new holder now for the operation, along with James Winchester, the snapper. And I remember it was an odd situation a few years ago when Butker became the kicker. Cairo Santos had started the year as the Chiefs kicker. Suffered an injury after 3 games. They brought in Butker and then released Santos, who they liked and was doing a good job for them. So, sometimes with special teams players, especially with kickers, it's not the smoothest of transitions. So, that all of a sudden you're right, Herbie. There's going to be a punting competition now for the Chiefs. Let's look at the news that is going to happen this week in the NFL. There were some rumors that it could happen as early as today. It's Tuesday. I don't think that'll happen. But by the end of the week, the Chiefs should know, and the rest of the NFL should know their 2020 schedule. And look, we know who the opponents are going to be. That's that we know next year's opponents. That's done in advance. It's a formula. But what we don't know is when those games are going to be played, and that's a special importance for the Chiefs this year because as the Super Bowl champion, they're going to open the season. That's the tradition now of NFL scheduling. The Super Bowl champion opens the season on Thursday Night Football for the most part. Didn't happen last year, but that last year was the exception that with the 100-year anniversary of the league. But the Chiefs are going to open the season at home on a Thursday night if the season comes off as planned. What do we think? What are we looking at as a possible opening game opponent for the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium?
Well, I'm going to say right off the bat, let's remove the Baltimore Ravens from the equation. I think that's a game the NFL wants to happen later on in the season when there's like postseason jockeying for position implications at hand there. I think the Ravens and the Chiefs makes much more sense late November, December timeframe. I think we were talking before we went on air here. The Houston Texans make sense as a season opener. Two divisional foes, or conference foes, I should say.
Conference foes, right.
Conference. That have always seemed to play a lot over the past few years. They've met in the playoffs a couple of times. But the one that makes the most sense to me, and we talked about this team earlier, the New England Patriots. This is a team that's now without Tom Brady. They're going to be with a lot of eyes are going to be on Bill Belichick. It's how the Patriots do without Brady. So this is going to be an intriguing storyline. I think you set up the Patriots against the Chiefs for the season opener, and you got a winner there.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of storylines involved. There are. I can't say this with just certainty, absolute certainty, but I'm pretty sure the opponent won't be a division foe, right? They're not going to have the Las Vegas Raiders open their life in Las Vegas coming to Arrowhead. I wouldn't think, or the Broncos. I guess not, or the LA Chargers. But there's some other issues to ponder here as we await the news, and one of which is, will the season start on time? What I've seen written by a couple of national writers is the idea of moving the season ahead or having back, wherever you want to describe it, by about a month, having it start sometime in October, but still play the 16-game schedule and have the Super Bowl played on the final weekend in February. It could start with fans. It could start without fans. It could start with fans in some places, but not in others. There's the issue of the Chargers and the Rams in California. Will the stadium be ready for those teams because of the delays because of the coronavirus? And I guess Herbie, I'm asking, what are you hearing? What's some of the storylines and rumors you've been hearing about when the NFL season will start and what the obstacles are?
I'm going to go back to what Clark Hunt told us 2 weeks ago during the draft. Nobody knows.
Yeah, you're right. Nobody does.
There's tons of speculation out there, but you know what? None of these writers is a medical doctor. None of them. And unless they work at the CDC or WHO, the World Health Organization, this is all speculation at this point. I mean, there's even writings out there if the college football season doesn't start, the NFL might take some of the Saturday slots. So there's a lot of scenarios at play, but I'm not a doctor. I don't specialize in infectious diseases, so I have no idea what's going to happen with the National Football League 2020 regular season.
All right, we'll leave it with that, and we'll look forward to the schedule coming out this week. That's always interesting because then you can how we're going to cover games is also left to speculation at this point. The gathering of people in the press boxes and
locker room
situations. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the continuation of the Zoom teleconference in the regular season, at least at the beginning of the regular season for the NFL. All sorts of unknowns going in, and there's time to determine this stuff too. I know that's big that's a big thought in the college world right now. There's no reason to make definitive statements about games and schedules, whether games are going to be played or not, because you have time to let the doctors do what the doctors are doing and let the scientists work on cures. So let's let that happen. What do you think?
You know what, though, Blair? And here's the thing that I think provides a reason for optimism. In South Korea, they've now started their baseball games again.
They're playing right now as we speak.
Yeah, and then that offers hope. And I think as long as we still have hope, then you move forward. You move forward and let things process the way it needs to process. But I think it would be irresponsible to rush into things without a set plan. And then Clark Hunt nailed it on the head last week or 2 weeks ago during the draft where he said, contingency plans, they're going to start discussing that at the end of this month during the annual league owners meeting. And so, hopefully by the end of this month, we should have a good idea of how the NFL plans to proceed.
All right, Herbie, great talking to you. We will we'll catch up again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Blair.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Welcome back to SportsBeat KC. Safety Tyrann Mathieu was one of 3 Chiefs who virtually met the media last Friday. He opens up by talking about how he's managing to train and stay atop his game from home.
Yeah, so I got my iPad, so I can, watch the film, see the reps, try to visualize it, and then just try my best to make it work at home. Try my best to really follow the guidelines and and then mostly just stay positive. I think that's most important. Just staying positive, staying in the right frame of mind. But been trying to get as much work in as I can with what I have.
Let's go to Danny Wilniak. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey, Tyrann. Hope you and your family are all well. Yes?
Thank you. Yes.
Good. Andy, just a few minutes ago, told us that he doesn't think this defense last year was nearly as good as it could be. You guys come off a Super Bowl win. Do you echo those sentiments?
I agree. We could have been so much better, especially the production at the ball. I mean, I think I dropped 8 interceptions by myself. And so you just understand that, if you make certain plays, it would have completely changed, how well we played. And I thought we played well, but it could have been great. So I think that's the motivation this year, is that we know we can really get better.
Let's go to Mick Schaefer. Go ahead, Mick.
All right, Tyrann, the draft, they take an LSU guy, they take a couple defensive backs, they take like 3 guys total from Louisiana. Are you sure that you weren't the one pulling the strings on that draft last week?
Nah, I had nothing to do with that. Just a lot of great kids with a lot of great talent, from down there in Louisiana. But it's always cool when you get to play with a guy that what kind of culture he comes from. So I know he's going to come in. He's going to fit in. He's going to do really well. And and we got to support him, as leaders, as a team. And, I think he's going to make an impact for us. So I'm excited about it.
Let's go to Darren Smith. Go ahead, Darren.
Hey, Tyrann.
Hey.
Hope all is well with you. Look, as one of the leaders on the team, how do you all fight against complacency going into the new season? And then have you had a chance to, I guess, maybe talk to or find out anything about Bashaud Breeland?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, earlier, I feel like we can really get better as a whole. And I know Frank Clark feels the same. I know Chris Jones feels the same. There's a lot of little things that we could have got better at. We're not necessarily patting ourselves on the back because we won a championship. I think we understand in order to do it again or even to win in the future, we're going to have to play better defensively. So teams will start to scheme us. They'll start to really, strategize how to beat us, and we're going to have to be able to really adjust as a defense. You mentioned Breeland. I haven't spoken with Breeland though.
All right, let's go to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hi, Tyrann. Thank you for taking some time here. First, when it comes to some of these players that are drafted, and a lot were on the defensive side of the football, and Gay and then Snead and Keys, I was just curious, how soon do you take it upon yourself to reach out to these guys, and what have those conversations been like? And then my second point was sort of in light of the Breeland situation, you've become the leader of the Chiefs defense. What does it mean, and what responsibility comes with being, in your opinion, a Kansas City Chiefs defensive back?
Yeah, well, you mentioned the couple guys that we drafted over draft week, and I think I actually hit up all those boys that night. Actually, maybe hit up Bo P the next day, but just excited to play with guys that love football. I don't think anyone's perfect, but I think if you're able to look at those guys, you'll say they love to play football. They love to tackle. They love to be out there. And I think as a defensive player, that's all you can ask for, when your GM is drafting a player. You just get a guy that love to play football, that love to tackle. And, Coach Spass can coach him up. I could try to coach him up and, we'll figure out where it goes. But I think being a leader is a ton of responsibility. It's obviously a great deal of accountability as well. You just have to hold people accountable, but I think most importantly, you have to hold yourself accountable. I think it's a certain way you practice. I think it's a certain way you play. I think it's a certain way you interact with teammates. It's a certain way you interact with coaches and even the media. So I think leadership is not just you being really good at football. I think it's you understanding that you're good at football and that you can help other people be good at football. And so I think that's leadership. And that's just what I try to do.
Now let's go to James Palmer. Go ahead, James.
What's up, Tyrann?
Hey.
Question. With you being home and kind of a different scenario than you've ever had in an off season, I'm curious if there's other things that you've kind of found since you're such a student of the game to kind of maybe study, look at that maybe you wouldn't do in a normal off season, right? Just kind of maybe studying something differently or doing something differently that's kind of caught your eye.
No, well, actually, most off seasons I always study, offenses, right? I try to see what teams are going to be on the schedule that year. Then I try to get a jump start on them. But lately, I've been studying other guys, I think that's really starting to help my game too. Watching other guys play the position I play, because I play a lot of different positions, and at times my technique can kind of start to slip because I'm all over the place, and so I think it's good to kind of watch other guys play certain positions, but guys like Chris Harris, even Sherman, Patrick Peterson, Kevin Byard, Derwin James. So I watch these guys film, and we're all different, and so but I try to take something from that. So I think that's where I'm at this offseason. I think I had a lot of time to really do that this year.
Let's go to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Tyrann, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Good.
Hey, I know you were following the draft, particularly in the early rounds, and you, not just the Chiefs, but the other teams. And you saw what the AFC West teams were doing, loading up to come after you guys. I just wanted to get your general thoughts on that. What thoughts do you have about these teams really coming after you? And Brad, if I could have one quick follow-up when it's done.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be exciting. I'm a football player. I love to play football, and I love the competition. I love that part of it, and I think anytime opposing teams can have exciting players on the other side, I think it's going to lift us naturally. I think we understand what teams are trying to do, what style of play that they're going for, and so I think if we're able to see that writing on the wall, we're able to accept it, and then not as much understand them, but more so just embrace ourselves. Just stay confident. Just understand that teams are doing certain things for a reason, and I think we got a little bit to do with that.
Yeah, and one more question. The Chiefs drafted a couple really fast defensive players in Willie Gay and L'Jarius Sneed. Mm-hmm. I just was curious, is being fast on defense maybe more important in today's NFL than even it was when you came into the league, for instance, you feel like?
Well, I think being smart is the most important thing. Having fundamentals, I think that is essential. But I think anytime you can get a guy with speed, you're able to play a little bit more aggressive. You're able to take a lot more chances. You're able to take a lot more risk. You understand that the big play won't happen often because you got guys that can really run down the field. And I think us drafting those guys, I think is going to give us the ability to really, be able to adjust within a game what we're going to be able to do. And so I think, like I mentioned, anytime you get guys with size, speed, and those guys like to tackle too. So I think that they fit the mold that Spags like to do, so I'm excited about them.
Let's go to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Tyrann. Thanks for doing this, man. I have a two-part question. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us how different it feels, even in a virtual offseason, the terminology, the understanding of one another between starting with a whole new unit, a whole new coaching staff last year versus, doing it this year in a virtual manner? And then secondly, when it comes to Chris Jones, and obviously you've been through the league and what it's like for a player to be franchise tagged, just what has your message been to him, and how has he sort of interacted with the guys on the defense while trying to understand sort of where his future may be from a contract situation?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think the biggest difference, meeting virtually with Coach Spags and Coach Merritt is that they're just so hands-on, and they're just not able to do that. It's like there's only so much Spags can do, and I think it's kind of driving him crazy, but he's making it work. But you mentioned Chris. He's such a great player. Like, he's such a dynamic player. I don't think anybody, wants him to leave. But I think it's just important for him to just, understand where he's at, understand where he's at just in this situation and understand that, you got a lot of teammates that want him to get paid, right? That's really rooting for him, man. So as long as he can be the same guy, right, full of great energy, he's a great teammate. As long as he can continue to be that, I'm sure something will work out for him.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Savannah Smith, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Tip of the cap goes to Herbie Teope for joining us today to talk Chiefs. Links to the stories we discussed can be found in the show notes. And earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. That still stands, and it's a good offer. $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage. Here's an even better deal. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, analysis, the whole bit. You get all the stories written by my talented compadres. Just great stuff. And the details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. In either case, the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're supporting local journalism and helping us deliver products like Sports BKC. Hey, we'll be back on Wednesday to talk sports in Kansas City.